Hello, I'm Glenn Hennessey, Director of Marketing and Communications for the American Revolution Institute of the Society of the Cincinnati. I'm pleased to introduce our exhibition, Affairs of State, 118 Years of Diplomacy and Entertaining at Anderson House. Diplomacy and entertaining have always gone hand in hand in the nation's capital. Anderson House, the headquarters of the Society of the Cincinnati and its American Revolution Institute, has played a historic role in that story during the 20th and 21st centuries, but one that has largely gone untold. Since its opening in 1905, the mansion has been the site of hundreds of diplomatic, patriotic, philanthropic, and cultural events. Anderson House has established itself as a uniquely sought-after destination in Washington, D.C. for heads of state, government officials, diplomats, and society leaders wanting a place to form relationships, consider challenges, and share common values. Affairs of State chronicles nearly 120 years of the people and events that have given Anderson House its place in the diplomatic and cultural history of the American Republic and its capital city. When Lars and Isabel Anderson set about designing a house on the vaunted Massachusetts Avenue, it was planned specifically for entertaining heads of state, government leaders, other diplomats, friends, and family in a setting that conveyed the couple's interests and values. For more than 30 years, Anderson House served as the temporary residence of foreign heads of state, meeting place of the American Red Cross, and base of operations for foreign missions during World War I, as well as the site of private diplomatic and social functions the Andersons hosted. From the first dinner for six that christened the dining room on March 29, 1905, to 800 guests at inaugural receptions thrown for their friend President William H. Taft, to the dozens of philanthropic events held to support various patriotic or international causes, the Andersons used their home to serve their country and its causes. Lars Anderson's last act of patriotic service was to ask his wife to donate their Washington home to the Society of the Cincinnati after his death, which came in 1937. The Society of the Cincinnati is America's first patriotic organization, founded in 1783 at the end of the American Revolution, to keep alive the memory of that vast event which secured our independence. The great-grandson of a Revolutionary War officer, Lars had been a devoted member of the Society and had its symbols and history incorporated into the decoration of Anderson House. The Andersons' gift, formalized in 1938, provided the organization with its one and only headquarters building. Following the Andersons' civic model, the Society contributed at a time of national crisis when the United States was plunged into the Second World War by lending the building to the U.S. Navy for urgently needed office space. After that conflict ended, the Society allowed official government entertaining in the house for decades, as the need for appropriate space for entertaining heads of state and their representatives was vast. Before the State Department diplomatic reception rooms were established in the 1960s, and even for many years thereafter, Anderson House was a preferred setting for diplomatic entertaining in Washington. Winston Churchill, Thurgood Marshall, Marjorie Merriweather Post, Jacqueline Kennedy, and 9 American presidents are among the guests who were feted within its doors. These traditions continue today, with Anderson House sought out by government officials, diplomats, journalists, schools, business leaders, civic and cultural organizations, and families with an important occasion to mark. Affairs of State draws on the rich collections of the Society of the Cincinnati and those of several generous lenders, some items being displayed for the first time, to explore the breadth of diplomatic, philanthropic, and cultural entertaining that has taken place at Anderson House over more than a century. Lars Anderson's diplomatic uniform, records of Isabel Anderson's Red Cross activities, and pieces from the couple's dinner settings document the first era of public service at Anderson House in the early 20th century. Menus, invitations, photographs, and media coverage illuminate the scope and style of the wide range of special events held at the mansion in the decades since. Historical film footage of notable events that took place at Anderson House over more than a century illuminate the importance of this house in American history. Most notably, Affairs of State also recalls an event of the highest honor that took place at Anderson House in 1944, when Rear Admiral Clark H. Woodward received Alida and Thomas Sullivan of Waterloo, Iowa. The Sullivans' 5 sons perished when the USS Juneau was destroyed by a Japanese submarine in 1942. Paramount news cameras captured the poignant moment in the second-floor key room when Admiral Woodward handed 5 individual Purple Heart medals to Mrs. Sullivan, who then handed each one to her husband, binding Anderson House to U.S. naval history. Generously on loan from the granddaughter of Elbert Sullivan, 2 of these Purple Heart medals honoring her grandfather and his brother Joseph have returned to Anderson House nearly 80 years later and are also featured in this exhibition. Affairs of State, 118 Years of Diplomacy and Entertaining at Anderson House, is now on display through December 31st, 2023. Our museum is open Tuesdays through Saturdays, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., and Sundays, noon to 4 p.m., when you can take a guided tour of the mansion and view this exhibition. We hope to welcome you to Anderson House very soon to explore this iconic building and the history that's been created within.